773 East Broadway. This is a live edition of the Jake Feinberg Show. Coming on Power Talk. Thank you so much for making us part of your day today. Wherever you are in the world, and stay safe and wear a mask and love your family. And what an honor it is to bring back a cat who really is one of the most inspiring dudes in music history. He's how should I say this? I mean, I think he's always had the philosophy of looking towards the light, and also like recognizing that when he felt like he belonged, that no matter what kind of personality or angst or projection people might put on him, he knew he belonged. So he just burned and played his ass off. And we've edited it a couple of times. Last interview was incredibly inspiring because he basically was on an unprecedented world tour throughout most of East Asia. At one time, it's just interesting to me because at one time these places were accessible to Americans and American music. Mike Maineri, welcome back to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Hey, Jake, how are you?
All right, man. Good to hear.
I'm a little harsh today.
As long as you're doing all right, man.
I don't have a mask on, but it's just
yeah, you're inside. I mean, you're inside. You're not going to some super spreader event, you know. I mean,
no.
Yeah. I mean,
no picnics, and I'm at home, like I have been for the past few months. So. Except for the occasional walk and visit to my children, one or two of them anyway, we're at least outside and social distancing. Other than that, we've been hunkered down in our apartment in Manhattan.
I mean, you're blessed. I mean, I wanted to ask you something. How is it so simple to say that the musician's pension has dried up because there's just there's just not enough union work anymore, and this is over decades, so you don't have people paying into the system as much anymore? I mean, you want to take everybody from White Elephant, everybody did thousands of sessions, jingles, commercials, record dates, everything. You guys were all paying in with the idea that you get the pension out. I mean, is it Bob Cranshaw was I'm going to say berating people, but he was educating people about why to join the 802. All right, so I mean that was prevalent. Is it easy? Is this as simple to say that the pension has dried up because there just isn't a lot of human work anymore?
I think it's a combination of factors. It's one factor is that the pension, where I think the numbers may be wrong, but their investments over the past, let's say, since the crash, were about 12%.
Right.
On the plus side.
No, you're saying the 2008 crash.
Yes.
Yes, got it.
So. But the musicians union, the investments were made poorly, unwisely, and even while this was happening, people were people on the board were giving themselves raises. Not razors, but raises.
Right.
Bonuses and raises. And I forget what the numbers were, but they were very low, like 1.2, 2.4. While the stock market has been rising.
Astronomically, yeah.
Astronomically is the word, over the last, 13, 14 years, even more, like 15 years. So that was, as a matter of fact, there's been several lawsuits that are in the in the works, where we're suing a group is suing a class action suit against the union itself, the board, for mishandling funds. So that would have helped, but more than that, as you said initially, is the idea of joining the union was I mean, it was something like I joined the union when I was 14, so it's 1952. You couldn't do a wedding or, I'm talking about a gig at a
Yeah,
at a dance.
you needed to have like a
local
cabaret.
dance.
You had a cabaret. You needed to have cabaret license or something.
No, you had to fill out a contract, and there were people from 802 that would show up unannounced to make sure that the contract was there. I mean, you could be at a wedding, like, they'd have like maybe a building that had 4 or 5 weddings going on at the same time, and then, someone would show up, some guy would show up from the union and make sure that everybody had signed that contract. So there was a contribution not only from the musicians, but from the hall itself, from the club itself. And that slowly dissipated, in the 80s, just like when synthesizers kind of took over the studio business and of course put a lot of musicians out of work. So, I know musicians that are in their 40s and 50s that don't belong to the union, and it's it's shocking. I mean, that, as far as I was concerned, that I was shocked over the years. Like, kids were coming out of Berkeley playing gigs, and of course the clubs were going to go along with it. You couldn't play Birdland or any of those clubs years ago without as far as I know, there was always a contract to play the club.
Wow.
I'm
just saying that
every record date, every jingle, every film date that I did, all those years, until about the late 80s, I would go on a record date and all of a sudden it was like, where's the contract?
Right. Well, no, I mean, I just want to just jump in because, I mean, like, when James Jamerson went out to L.A. and started working for Motown, I mean, he was not in great shape. He was an alcoholic and things like that. And so it was short-lived out there for him. But even though he was iconic in Motown, because Don Randy, the great pianist, they were doing a date, and I forget, I think H.B. Barnum was on it or something, and the session, these guys came in with huge bags of cash to pay the musicians, and Randy's like,
right.
No, man, no, we don't do it like that out here, man. We go through the union. This is like a contract date. And Jamerson went up to him and gave him a big hug. He's like, man, this is the way it should be done. And that's the point. Is that was in the 60s. That was roughly when the studios were cooking in New York. So the point was that the idea of the late 80s, I'm not sure if you were just given cash, but it was more like, just here's this quick payout, and that's all you get. That's kind of all you get. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was, he hugged Randy because
most of the dates I did in the 80s, the early 80s, I would say, I don't know when it changed. I mean, every date that I ever did for Tommy LaPuma.
God bless that. What a genius that guy.
In the 2000s, like, I remember doing a date for him, not only for Diana Krall, for the Paul McCartney project, but the Sanborn project, it was a union date. He could pay me. Yeah. He could pay me like double or triple. Because he knew what I normally charged, but he would just add it on. But it's few and far in between. In terms of what was going on, even before that, even during the 80s.
Well, I guess I'm just looking at, because 70s, yeah. I mean, you are. It's so delightful to be able to talk to. I mean, do you not that you had conversations with Paul Whiteman or, Louis Armstrong or, Wilbur Ware or people that maybe were on the scene before you, but like, do you remember like they were like, whoa, I'm looking forward to. I got a good pension here. At one time the pension must have been incredibly strong.
Yeah, I mean, even now, I mean, I have friends who are they're a little younger than me that did. They were first callers. I mean, there weren't that many gigs for vibraphonists. You know, a lot of the work that I did was I was a writer. In other words, I was an arranger and a writer. I was writing TV jingles and stuff. And as a composer, you didn't get a union fee. As an arranger, you did. But I was like doing a lot of jingles and stuff like that, writing them, you know. But if you were first call, like let's say Warren Bernhardt or Spinoza, guys like that, Chuck Rainey,
McCracken,
you know, McCracken, you know, Gadd when he was a little later on.
Everett Barksdale, yeah.
You know, I can think of all the trumpet players that I know, you know, on and on, all the sax players, you know, that they were first calls, and all the string sections, you know. David Nadian was a concert master for, you know, he was a concert master at the New York Philharmonic, and then, of course, he was making so much money in the studios that David finally just worked in the studios, and he would get called, and he'd hire all of the string players, you know, he'd call him, and then he would make sure he brought in, you know, excellent musicians, string players for your day. All of them, of course, belong to the union. But I think this new, what's happening right now, where the government's about to take over the pension itself, where I think in some cases there'll be pennies on the dollars. I hope not, but I think if you're 80 and over, I think you're cool. But you know, how many musicians live to?
Maineri, dude, you are a timeless.
They picked that. They picked that. I picked that number. They must have done some math.
And just because I'm not a math. Yeah, I'm not a. You're saying that you're cool because the quantity.
I might be.
Of course, but I'm saying like just because of the quantity of sessions that you were on, even if you're getting pennies on the dot.
No, I think it could be. I don't know how they're
right.
putting it together.
Right.
You know, it's not like if you joined 10 years ago and, you know, not 10, or say 20 years ago. And then, but I mean, of course, in 1952, I don't know how many years that amounts to. It's quite a few years that when I was 14, my first gig was with the Paul Whiteman TV show or radio show. I think that's when it was first, because I did a few of them. You know, had to be in the union. I was like one of the youngest members of the union. In those days, you had to audition to get in, too. I remember schlepping my vibes on the subway. And, you know, an environment that existed, even with big pop artists, that it was like just easier just to pay guys, you know, by check. You get a check or something like that. And it didn't go through the union because if you sold 30 million copies, you had to pay the union. I mean, after, you know, out of the proceeds of the album.
And so basically, if somebody went up to Maineri and you're like, "No, I want to make this a union contract," they'd say, "We'll just find somebody else."
The last time you guys played on that big record that I had, where I sold 30 million copies, you know, it cost me a fortune. Like, what could it have cost? Like $50,000.
Right.
You know, that goes to the union, which gets split up. You know, big deal. Right, and we're talking about fucking guys that were, you know.
Yeah, it's absurd. It's such greed factor, man.
We're multi-millionaires, like touring records and stuff like that. And it was like, you know, blood out of a stone. and we're talking about top musicians. We're not talking about kids that are coming out of Berkeley. So, I mean, it slowly, it morphed into this idea that, well, clubs didn't have to pay, you know, didn't have to hire union musicians, because guys would work who were either non-union or in the union and desperately needed work, you know, needed to support their families. So,
wow,
here we are today. You know,
this is so important. I mean, it's really refreshing. The greed, Mike. When it's like not even.
I mean, I don't. Yeah. I play the Iridium. I'll play the Bruno. There's no contract. There's no. I mean, that's the norm. The norm is like if you just say, "Hey, we've got to fill out the contract." What? Are you kidding? Forget it. We'll just get somebody else. Because there's so much talent, you know. couldn't do that in the 50s and 60s and 70s and even the beginning of the 80s. All the weddings, all of the gigs in these small clubs in Brooklyn and wherever, all over the country. You know, there's hardly, and the only thing that's keeping it together, the pension, alive, are people that are playing in the pit, right? Classical musicians in the film industry. And even some of that, what they're doing is they go to Canada, they'll go and record in London, they'll go and record, whatever, in Hungary, rather than have to pay guys in L.A. who are in the union, and they're going to have to, pull out the contract, and it's going to cost them a lot of money. So it's...
when did it get to when do you remember? I just read this article about Matt Damon, the actor. He rented out an entire street in Brooklyn this week for so he could move into his $16.5 million Brooklyn condo. And I'm even hearing things about Hollywood now that if you're going to bring on somebody like Matt Damon, that the company has to take out insurance on him, and there has to be all these protections involved with coronavirus and the testing, and to me it's like, okay, your mentors, the guys that you worked under, and the guys that you observed that were your peers or your elders, it seemed to me that there was, I'm not saying it was communal and everything was always split even, but when did it get to a point when it was like, we are going to immortalize one person, just one, and all the money's going to go to that person? Creedence Clearwater, people say they got ripped off by Fantasy when they did those hits, Down on the Bayou, Born on the Bayou, whatever. I mean, Saul Zaentz had them under contract. They did just fine on those. They didn't get everything. Today they would have gotten everything. As a result, all that money trickled down into the ability to make all these incredibly awesome jazz records. So, to me, when did it start to become about the single iconic person and, like the idea of like what you were just talking about with where it's like this person, you can give them music lessons and you can become fast friends, and then all of a sudden they're saying, oh, but really we gave out so much money to the union. We're going to make sure that the superstar is going to get the money. I mean, I know that you had the movie Wall Street and you had Reagan coming in. I remember, is it simple as, did you notice when it got to be like, oh, it's got to be all about this titular head, and whatever trickles down, the scraps that are left, that's what you guys are going to get?
Well, corporations, when Kenny Parking took over some of the studios, I was watching an interview with Mel Brooks and some street. Clive Davis, for example, when he left Columbia. I mean, there was always a jazz department at Columbia, right? Butler was there. And when he went over to Arista and he started Arista, he put Steve Vacker in charge of the jazz department. It was just something you did.
Right. Right.
Okay. You had these impresarios in a way, but they're visionaries. I mean, like Clive. Okay, so Steve Vacker had the Brecker Brothers. He signed me. He signed Steve. There's so many musicians and a lot of really outside, avant-garde.
Yeah, they had great freaking taste. They were impresarios. Yeah, I get it. It's awesome. It's freaking great.
So they said, okay, we know it's gonna almost like lose money. It's just Tommy LaPuma was like that.
Absolutely. He
had his big hits, not to take anything away from Benson. He had, Diana Krall, whatever, huge artists that made quite a bit of money. But his jazz department always, Danilo Perez. You had so many artists on the label.
Dude,
Some
him
were
and
kinda
Bob
commercial,
Krasnow did the sick. They had the best. That Blue Thumb label was so badass. You know, Creed Taylor was the same
Right.
way with when he was with MGM Verve. You know, impresario
Exactly.
kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and who? Let's see, who was I thinking? Also, I was trying to think of.
Dude,
You
I
had,
cannot believe you just dropped this Kinney parking thing. The Jersey parking lots, they bought this stuff?
well, didn't they buy one of the?
No, I mean, I love, you know, you're right. There's they just,
Well, they bought one of the movie studios. I don't know if it was MGM or one of them. You know, when corporate America and foreign interests got involved, and the whole thing just blew up. So you didn't have those people that started all the small labels, Argo, Mercury. I mean, it's just you can go on. It was like 100 small jazz labels.
yeah, right.
They were gobbled up. Even United Artists. I was with United Artists. I was with Argo. I was with Solid State. I was with Mercury. You know, I made records. You know, my own records. And thanks to those guys, they were just. Esmond Edwards is an A&R guy who was the producer on my first album. You had these people who really loved the music, people who invested in it, and then they were supported by the major labels, or they put their own money into in it, and just for the love of the music. But then they slowly, there are only 3 labels, right? Major labels. Like it's BMG. I'm forgetting now. Sony. What's the other one?
Maybe RCA or I'm looking up some quote right.
Just maybe 3 or 4.
Yeah.
EMI or something like that, right? But when you think about it, I'll say to myself, where are those the tapes of the albums that I made? Never mind, other jazz artists and folk artists or what have you. Probably some of them were just lost in that fire out in New Jersey where they really didn't give a shit about, making sure that they were taken care of properly.
Hold on, I just want to be. Dude, you're blowing my mind. First of all, Maynard Solomon was another one of those cats. He was the head of Vanguard. I'm sure you must have known that cat.
Sure.
So the thing that you're telling me that these smaller labels had what we would call backup of the recordings or things that didn't even see the light of day, and then but they never protected them, and there was a fire. What are you talking about by that?
I'm talking about the fire out in New Jersey. I can dig up the information. There were like thousands of masters that were lost. It was in the New York Times. You didn't read about that?
Yeah, I'm not that hit. How is this pretty recent or going back a ways?
Yeah, maybe several months ago. I'm Googling it now.
Yeah, please. Now, I'm going to read you this quote from Joe Sample, and then you can riff on this, because this is exactly what we're talking about. He said, the Crusaders were on ABC Records, and ABC Records was sold to MCA in 1980. MCA is Universal. That's a major, major company. Around 1982, there were six corporate powers that now owned the American record industry. You know what they did? They cut off all the regionalism in music. They did not want regionalism. The way to make money was to eliminate the regionalism. So somebody sold 50,000 albums around Memphis and Nashville. That wasn't good enough. We want 10 million albums to sell across the entire United States. That's when the unbelievable factor of how varied, how different, how wonderful all the regional music died. Those six corporations eliminated that. So on the radio, from San Diego to Maine, you could hear the same record on the same day. 300 independent labels down to 6, Maineri, in 1980.
Right. That was the switch. That's when it all... Well, I started my label, unfortunately, in '89.
Well, whatever. But that's what you had. You had to resort. You had to do that because otherwise, it was like, it was the contraction of he talked about regionalism in music, and I mean, you listen to an Argo record, Chess record, Motown record, Impulse record by Manny Album, they all sound different. And then it became like, and that was the other thing. The radio play. I mean, you had Ed Beach, right, Riverside on Riverside Church, and you had this guy Harry Abramoff, who on a good night you could pick up his radio station from Rochester all the way down to, it was deep. It was all regional though. It wasn't this formula trip where now everything is completely interconnected. So and then you just had a huge consolidation of power amongst major corporations who just said, well, we don't really care or understand how genius La Puma or these impresarios are. We'll just eliminate those positions and we'll have the bean counters make the decision.
I was up at with Tommy up at his label GRP when he was there on the East Coast after he had left Warner Brothers, and I remember when Seagram's. Well, it was Bronfman. It was Edward Bronfman's son decided to buy BMG, and they consolidated. I don't know how many labels. I was one of the labels. My label was signed to GRP, and GRP was going to put out X amount of records, which was distributed by Warner's, which was owned by it was all these companies that were owned by somebody else. And then when Bronfman came in, everything was consolidated. So they bought out all. Lee Ritenour had its own label over at. I'm trying to think of the major label that jazz label. So Lee and I just said to Tommy, I said, just make sure I'm one of the first of the 30 small labels that are going to be discarded or bought out.
Was he on? Was he on? Was Lee Ritenour on? He was on Elektra or Epic, Polygram, or Decca.
When Bronfman came in, it was like, who was going to be the head? Who was going to be the president? Right, because they were going to consolidate Epic and GRP. And it was either going to be the head of, I forget his name, at Epic, very powerful guy, and then there was Tommy, and Tommy was really like, worried that they would gobble up GRP and he would be out of a gig, and there you go, all of his artists would be under Epic's control. Along with, was it Blue Thumb? No, it was Blue, not Blue Note. What is the jazz label that GRP was controlling? Major jazz label.
Major jazz label.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a
Major
little,
jazz.
I mean.
Old jazz. I'm talking about the catalog up at GRP. I'd have to look that up.
Okay.
My memory is failing me. It was, incredible amount of, money that it would make every year. But and then for some reason Tommy wound up being named as president, and Epic was under his control. Now, when I was up there must have been like 35 or 40 people that were part of GRP, and I don't remember how many people Epic has. Maybe about the same, possibly a little less. But then. More than half of those people lost their jobs because two things were happening. The industry was changing, going to CDs as opposed to vinyl. Stores were closing slowly,
Right.
And they were more, they had to be concerned with getting rid of my label and other labels. They bought me out. I only had, I think I had about 8 or 9 artists at the time. They were only interested in the 3 most commercial artists, that my best-selling artists. and I was up there. I was up there at the marketing meetings, and I was up there, 3 times a week. They gave me an office up there. It was great. Tommy was just so wonderful, and his budgets were fantastic for all the jazz artists that he had up there. And
wait, I'm sorry.
those days are gone.
Who was ultimately making this decision about commercial? How is that determined? 3 most commercial, just most square, straight music, or who made those decisions?
Well,
It wasn't you and La Puma.
it wasn't. No, it wasn't Tommy and I, but it was somebody else. I don't want to mention their name.
Oh, okay. But you would consider them a bean counter and not really somebody who.
Somebody, yeah, basically. So we can. All right, we'll take so and so and so and so and so and so, and then we'll think about steps ahead. Then we'll think about
we'll think about
Myron Walden, who was on my label, and a little bit later it was George Garzone. I had, and he made a record with Lovano, and I made this fantastic Beatles record of guitar players playing their favorite Beatles tune. I mean, everybody was on there. Holsworth. I can go through the list. Just
but they were just
Abercrombie, Steve Conn, just one fantastic guitar player, Larry Coryell, all playing solo guitar or with a trio, playing their favorite Beatles tunes. As a matter of fact, I made 2 albums. I did a follow-up. They really weren't interested in that. But anyway, I was at the meetings, and it was really interesting. Sitting at an A&R meeting at a label, I learned a lot. Because I had never, I've been to marketing meetings just for one day, but not on a daily basis sometimes. And you could see like how the record industry really worked, and who you had to pay, and make sure that this guy was covered out on the West Coast, who would get the buyers to, because they get the buyers to buy X amount of so-and-so's records, so that they would take this and this and this along with it.
No, I just want to say, by the way, I need to find this.
They were the guys who, going back to the 40s and 50s, that came up with the money. And, a great person to talk to is, Milan Simic?
No.
Okay, Milan Simic, the producer, agent, puts on I don't know how many promoter. I don't know how many shows all over the world, Miles and Steps Ahead, and does 5-6 projects a year. He was doing it before the pandemic at Birdland, and he's written. He has 3 books that he just published on the jazz in the golden years, all about Birdland. You will die when you see.
Dude, wait! You're talking about the Mike Maineri playing drums at Birdland, that golden era?
No, me playing drums, but it will. We're talking about from 49 to 59, and he has photos. Jeez. 2 books are photos of just you can't believe the photos. They got them from all the famous photographers, and also the 3rd book is interviews with cats who are over the past 10, 15 years that played at Birdland. As a matter of fact, he interviewed me several times. He's a good friend of mine. And he'll just publish.
Yeah, I would love, dude. Please connect us. I would love to.
100 books at $300, and then it's worth. You should interview him because he is like an encyclopedia.
Oh, I'd love to catch a hang with him.
He is. We all know him, Brantley Breck. I mean, all the cats know Milan because he's just booked all of us.
I just want to be clear. First of all, I love how this come together guitar tribute to the Beatles, Towner, Toots Thielsman. But again, I need to ask you here. Did you know, I'm seeing, I believe his son, Zachary, did you know Lenny Bro?
Yeah.
Because he was up in Toronto. I mean, did you guys get to jam together?
No, we didn't. But I got to hear him play.
He is an amazing player. Total unsung cat.
Absolutely. I'm just looking something up here. This is really
I mean,
funny.
this Come Together guitar album is insane, man. This is the coolest thing.
Yeah, the first one, the first volume, which was the first CD I put out, it was Mark Whitfield, okay, Tonino Horta, okay, Ralph Towner, Steve Kahn, Adrian Ballou, John Abercrombie, Alan Holsworth, Laney Stern, Larry Coryell, Toots Steelman, and I got Toots. Now, Toots was at an age where he didn't even play guitar anymore. And I knew Toots when he first moved to New York. We were neighbors.
No way.
We would do trio gigs together.
Oh,
I
this
didn't even know
is
he
so...
played the harmonica.
Oh, my God.
He was just playing guitar. It was just like guitar, bass, and vibes. We were playing some little local clubs, and he lived right down the street. Didn't even have a fucking car. I said, oh, don't publish that.
That's fine.
No,
That's fine.
edit
No
that.
cursing, yeah.
He didn't even have a car. I'd drive him home. He lived right up the street. And all of a sudden, like, I discover he's got this hit on the radio, Blues At. I said, he says, that's me whistling. And then I find out that he's playing harmonica. I said, how come you don't do that on the gig? He said, I'd rather play
Who
guitar.
was the drummer on the gig?
There was no drummer. It was bass.
Who was the bass player?
And vibes. Yeah, it was just a trio.
Who was on bass?
I had different guys. It was like Link Milliman. I don't know if you know him.
What about Link Chamberlain? Link Chamberlain? Did you ever hang with that cat?
No, Link Milliman.
Yeah, no. Link Milliman sounds... I just remember Spinoza freaking out about Link Chamberlain, the guitar player. He was bad.
Oh, I don't.
So I mean...
The name sounds familiar, but I don't know him.
So did you get Toots to play guitar? Yeah.
Not Toots, because Kenny Werner was his accompanist and an arranger at this point. Now we're talking like this is in the late '90s, and I called Toots, and I had just finished doing a duet album with him called East Coast. It was his album. He said, I don't play guitar anymore. I said, it's all guitar players. He says, my fingers, I can't do it. And I just hounded him. And he shows up with a guitar.
I love it.
And does this amazing version.
Man.
And what did he do? Yesterday, which Kenny arranged for his quartet. And not only does he play guitar, he whistles on it and then plays harmonica, and it's a killer. It's so beautiful.
Can I ask you? Did you? This was '93 when this came out. Did you?
Right around that.
Yeah, no, I'm looking at it. It says the release, the original release, August 15th, '93. Did you adhere to the old school methodology of union work, or were you cutting these guys checks?
No, it's cutting these guys checks. He didn't belong to the union. He can't,
Jeez.
do a union contract with there. People stop paying dues because there were no, unless you did a film date. Maybe Toots was still, if he did a film date for somebody out in the West Coast, same thing with me. Like I said, I did the McCartney thing, or I did something out there with. On a film date, I would get, because it was the union. I always paid my union dues. I still do. So.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. Is the idea of saying
But if you're a non-union musician, and you're on a film date, sorry.
No, I get that, but I'm looking here. I'm looking here.
The thing I did. Lupuma was the producer. Because what's her name? Diana Krall was basically her trio. She arranged everything for McCartney, and then Alan Townsend did all the string arranging. So that was a bona fide union gig.
I'm just looking here at these are. Towner, Abercrombie, Coryell, Steve Kahn, I mean, those are veritable mainstays in the studio. So basically you had to step back.
Michael Hedges, he did something.
Right, you have to look.
No, I'm thinking I'm looking at volume 2.
Yeah, you're on
Wayne
volume
Krantz,
2. And, I mean,
Well,
but you paid
Wayne
your.
Krantz, Charlie Hunter, Philip Decree, and Bill Mikowski actually produced that. Adam Rogers, David Gilmour, Terry Riptill, was from Norway. Jody Harris, Robert Klein, who passed away. I think David Tronzo, Robin Ford. Like some heavy cats. Michael Hedges and Dave, Fuse, David Fuzinski. I don't know if you know him.
No.
A fusion player, amazing. He teaches up at Berkeley. But anyway.
No, but Mike, what I'm saying is,
I couldn't sell those out. Yeah. I can't give those albums away. I have thousands of them collecting.
Mike, I'm sending you. I need. Mike, I need those albums, man. Mike, I mean, I'll clear.
You know what happened?
Yeah.
It was. I thought it would go in the Beatles Beatles slot in the at say Virgin or HMV and all the stores that were still
That's
around
reasonable,
then.
yeah.
But they would not put it in the Beatles slot, whatever slot. It wound up in various artists. And who the hell looks in various artists?
Jake Feinberg. Jake Feinberg does. Jake Feinberg does. No,
Jake does. Milan Simic does. I do. How many, wackos like us?
Yeah, of course, the freaks. I mean, there's
aficionados will look in various artists because they always find something that's wow. Well, I don't have this. I haven't heard this. But the normal buyer that comes in there thinking to buy Beatles, they go right to the Beatles. And didn't sell any records. CDs. I thought, they went, oh, this is fantastic. You should print up 20,000 of these. I probably have like 17,000 left, just sitting out in L.A.
So wait, I just want to go back to this. What was in what was in the masters of White Elephant, Journey Through an Electric? What masters were lost in this fire?
All right, I'm gonna go back here and let's see.
It's amazing. We got Mike Maineri riffing and doing research at the same time on the computer right now. I mean, I think I did hear about that.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Here you go. All right. Recording masters from some of the most influential artists of the 20th century. The New York Times is reporting. Universal Fire. It destroyed an estimated 500,000 recordings. 500,000. Now. We're talking Aretha. I mean, we're not talking like, Joe Schmo. We're talking major artists. They didn't even know I don't think they even cataloged everything. It was just throw this shit over there out. And, they didn't have sprinkler system. There wasn't air conditioning. I mean, these tapes have to be really cared for, in terms of humidity, in terms of the temperature, because they just come apart, So look it up. You'll see it on. Read the whole story. It's really interesting.
I guess what I'm trying to say is that just in my naive mind, I mean, so okay, these are masters of things that have already been released and re-released and put into digital form. So
no, these are masters. But I'm talking about the 24 tracks where you had all the outtakes.
Okay, so there was previously tons of unreleased.
Right, which are probably two of them are like really great. I mean, it's like once in a while you see like Miles. There was like two takes on on an album that he did. Now they'll just put that out, but that's on the 1/4-inch master that they used, right? But the actual 24-track or 16-track that it was recorded on initially would be sent out to Jersey or in other parts of the country or world, as far as I know.
Wow.
Don,
That's.
I mean, an outtake could be like better than the first take, or the second take. The first take could be much better. Miles used to say that first. Or I don't know if you were listening to the Monk or saw the Monk special. I don't know if it was on Netflix.
No, I just talked to Maineri, dude. That's all I did.
He's like, he would play the tune, And then he turned around and looked at the producer and said, "You get that? Oh, I thought you were rehearsing." And then he'd get up and walk around and go like, "Son of," start cursing and sit down and start playing again. And the guy still wasn't recording. Like, you record everything.
You do.
Let's face it, that was my thing.
No, I totally dig that. I mean,
we're gonna run it down. Record that. I would just say to the engineer, record that. First take sometimes that's the shit.
I need to know, for the record, can you talk about, I mean, I know that you and the drum tech were playing when Buddy would tap dance. You'd occasionally sit on drums at Birdland, but I need to know if have you ever been recorded on anything other than Vibes? Did you play Tim's?
No. I listened after that. I mean, believe me, I might have played drums once.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it.
At Birdland, like maybe on a tune or one tune, but there was always, think about it. It was always like 20 drummers in the room or more.
Everybody was just getting
almost like every night. He finished the Carson show, whatever show he was doing. I don't know if it was Carson at the time, and he would be at Birdland. Ed was there. He would sit in. There would be, I'm trying to think, of course, Philly Joe, Papa Joe.
Was Don Lemon there?
I don't remember Don Lemon sitting in, but I remember, let's see, Max Roach sat in. Let's see.
Like Pete LaRocca?
Who was the drummer that it was? Louis Belson would sit in. Louis would come down and hear him. And I was trying to think of the drummer that was playing with Basie at the time. He was really fantastic. Sonny Payne.
Oh, my God. Nasty.
Cats like that. Like whoever was in the audience that wanted to play was a good player. Oh, another guy by the something Burns. I forget. He was like the hot shot.
Oh, yeah, like Ralph Burns. Ralph Burns, right?
Yeah.
Dude, that dude was a freak, man.
Yeah, he was, chops up the...
Yeah. No, I just want to see Maineri, like, laying back on the beat. You're telling me that, like these, like, gigs, maybe one night your drummer didn't show up and you had to just wing it on the drum. Like, I mean, did you play, like, it blew my mind that you were playing drums.
Playing drums. I stopped playing drums when I was, like, 18. Once I started, like, really getting a lot more gigs as a vibraphonist, because I was, I knew at the age of 14, and I'm probably repeating myself, that vibraphonist, to be successful, you had to better be a band leader, because who's going to hire a vibraphonist?
Well, that's what I mean, because I remember,
when you're 15 to 16 years old, you're going to do a wedding or a dance or play in a little club or something like that. You're not really playing clubs when you're 15 because of the liquor license, but most of my gigs were that. I had like tons of weddings and baptisms and bar mitzvahs. I was playing all over, dances, socials. So I went, I better be the band leader, which I was from 14. I was the leader of the trio that I, appeared with on the Whiteman show and on the other kids' shows. So my father was, he said, you've got to hustle up some work, kid.
Well, no, what I'm saying is, I'm going to throw out these names here because Toots is with us today. I can feel his spirit. And on Command Records, I want to just ask you about, because, I mean, I'm surprised that you, wanting to be a little bit more, valuable, would have not, all these guys that I'm going to say, not necessarily this, all these guys were playing bongos, marimbas, a different kind of instruments. Phil Krause, Bobby Rosengarten, you mentioned Shaughnessy.
Phil Krause was one of my teachers.
Hey, please talk about Phil Krause, because every Command record, every Tony Mottola record I pick up, Phil Krause is all over those albums, and he's playing all different types of percussion.
Right, and he was great at it. He was not an excellent vibraphone player.
No,
I mean he could read. Phil could read anything. He could read anything on the vibraphone. And I mean, but improvise, forget it. Because I studied with him because I was going to go to Juilliard, which I got a scholarship to go to Juilliard. they had no jazz department, I never went actually.
Well, that was the best thing about that was the best thing about those schools. They didn't. You could make up your own rules.
Right, I studied with Saul Goodman's teacher, Doc Freese. I studied timpani.
Love Saul
I studied
Goodman.
with Teddy Reed, Chapin. I had, Doug Allen, who was also, a fantastic teacher and drummer, and Phil Krause. I was studying xylophone, but I never could read as good as well as Phil. I would go in to see, take lessons at WNEW when Phil was doing all the radio shows. He was like the house
Are you kidding
drummer.
me?
He was playing drums.
Oh my.
Yeah, and he'd be reading the New York Times while they were doing the show. I used to sit there with my mouth open. I'm going,
Dude, this is so
how cool
legend.
is
This is beyond, man. This is so insane.
the house trio that plays like the intro, right?
Yeah.
Like for the Dick Cavett show, like Bobby Rosengarten's band, right? So it's like, except it was a radio show, so you see all these guys reading the newspaper and waiting for the guys talking,
Drinking a cup of coffee, hanging out.
Right, interviewing so-and-so, and then they play the theme. Once in a while, they'd back a singer. Once in a while, and Hill would just be sitting there reading the, probably, stock futures or something. He's a character. And he's a sweetheart. And then he knew, like, I'd come in and I'd play, and I was improvising already at 15 or 16. He went, yeah, you don't really need lessons. Why don't you just go to a movie? Don't give me the money. Don't pay, for the lesson. I had the Goldenberg book. I wish I had learned to read better, because later on I was struggling with it when I started doing a lot of studio work. But I did play a lot of the percussion instruments.
You did?
Yeah, I played, on jingles and some film dates. I could play timpani, and I'm not a great bongo player, but I could, they'd be like 7 bars of bongo, so I could hold my own. Shaker, tambourine,
shaker. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
It was a 30-second commercial. Like, what's there to, a couple of notes on the vibes, a couple of runs on the xylophone and bells or something like that. So they were easy gigs, and it was, there was a camaraderie amongst, say, 50 of the top. Half of the bass band was there, so.
You're telling me this was totally live too. Like Krause would be like, they'd be like, "Yo, let's just play you play the intro, then he'd sit down, read the paper, and then when he was called up again, he'd play again."
Oh, with Krause, he was just sitting at the drums. Yeah, yeah. It was he and there's some videos of he and Harry Shepard, who's an excellent vibraphonist, who played at the Metropole Cafe. I used to with Saul Yeager. And I used to sub for him occasionally with Saul. And then I got a chance to play with some of the older cats like Cozy Cole.
Oh, my God, dude. This is so insane.
Just like all those old.
Yeah, the cats.
The cats, right.
Wait, hold on for a second. Because I want to, I could talk to you for hours. But, the thing is, I want to read you this story and then see if any of this, I know you're going to have a story about it, but this is a dear friend of mine who now lives in Arivaca on the border of Arizona and Mexico, is Glenn Moore, the bass player. And he said that when he moved to New York, he said, we, meaning Oregon, started to do a lot of free playing with Jeremy Steig. Oregon was just getting going. We had just made our first record. Jeremy told me one night to go to WBAI radio. There was a guy named Bob Fass who had a show that went from midnight to 6 a.m. Jeremy would go on there and bring his friends, and they would just improvise all night. Every once in a while, there'd be a station identification, but there was no talking. We just played. First it was Jeremy and I, then it was Jeremy, Colin Walcott, and I, then Ralph came in. Eventually, Oregon developed quite an audience by playing on WBAI at night. They started doing these things called, quote-unquote, free music stores, where they do live concerts in the studios. Oregon
I remember that.
Aaron Copland came. Were you involved with this midnight to 6 jam with Steig?
Not with Steig, but with White Elephant.
Oh my! Wait a minute. So, how did you
The
fit
big
all
band
those?
yeah, the whole big band. I don't even know if it was called White Elephant. Originally, I called it Red Eye.
You did. Oh my God,
The
Red
band.
Eye, dude. I love. You
No, I
had
called
like
it Red Eye 'cause
everybody in there, dude.
I had a farm upstate, and I was making wine, which some people used to call Red Eye. You know,
Oh.
so I first called it Red Eye, and then later we changed the name to White Elephant because it was.
Wait, you were actually dabbled in winemaking? I mean, are you serious?
Well, I bought this for hardly any money, a farm. I just really wanted to buy a farmhouse. I had all these kids and
Yeah, up near the Taconic Parkway.
Up near Rhinebeck. Actually, it's right above that Red Hook. And my uncle was a real estate broker, and he said, "Yeah, this is a little farmhouse. Yeah, I think you can get it for hardly anything." The guy's looking to sell. It's been in the family for hundreds of years. And I went up there with my wife, and and I look, and it's like 8 acres of grapes,
Holy
hundreds
cow.
of fruit trees.
Dude, you got it for
pond,
nothing, dude. Holy cow.
nothing. And the farmer said, I'll never forget his name, Mr. Unser. And he said, he thought I was like a New York speculator. I was going to, cut it up and,
He didn't know you were a hippie, dude? Look at your hair at that time. You were way out.
I know, but it's just kind of like, a little suspicious.
Yeah.
Never mind the hair, but just like from New York. And he said, I'll tell you what. And he saw my wife, had the kids with me, took the kids. And he kind of felt sorry. He was retiring.
He felt sorry for
and
you.
he and his wife. And he said, "You know what? If you work one season with me,
Whoa.
if you come up on the weekends, so many weekends, I'll sell you the farm." And so I went, "It's interesting. I'll do that." So I went up there and I learned how to prune the grapes. I learned how to, work the tractor. I learned how to spray.
Dude,
Meanwhile,
this is so ridiculous. I love this, dude.
I was spraying. He had this machine behind the tractor that he made himself. Like 500 gallons of DDT. I don't know how I'm still alive. I would come in.
You were ingesting
when
that
I finally
stuff.
started doing this. I was all white. I mean, I was just wet with DDT. And meanwhile, I was smoking cigarettes.
Dude, I would just give me pictures. Can you send me pictures of you from back in this time? I need to see you, man.
My second wife, Sally, could probably got some pictures.
I mean, Mike. Honestly, you were huffing down cigarettes with chemical pesticides everywhere, and you were cut.
And so he taught me to prune the grapes, and I went up there and we did all of the, picking of the grapes in late September.
Sure.
And they were Concord grapes. You just really couldn't make wine with it. You could make Manischewitz with it, but you couldn't make.
You couldn't even make wine with it. It was just a vineyard of grapes. Really, there was no.
And so
yeah.
There was a Welsh plant nearby where you just bring the grapes in just truckloads. You actually put them on a huge cart that I would get, would drag with the tractor that would follow me. I would connect to this,
Right.
like a homemade cart that he made. It was a flatbed, and put all the grapes on there, and I'd go to Welsh, and they'd weigh the grapes, and then they would check how much sugar was in it, and they'd pay you X amount depending on the sugar content. It's complicated. I know I'm going off base here, but
No. I want to be very. I just want to be clear though. You did start to make a wine.
Are you going to sell me the farm? He says, and he sold it to me for considerably less money than he was asking for, and he took back a second mortgage. I mean, this guy was a mensch.
Holy cow, dude!
And
Stumbling into grace,
all
man.
The farm equipment for $1,500. All of the farm equipment. I'm talking about tractor, a huge tractor.
Dude, Maineri, you were stumbling into grace.
Plowed. So I did, kids went to school in Red Hook, which was really a redneck. They got their butts kicked all the time.
I just want to be very clear. I went to summer camp for almost 2 years of my life, 8 weeks in Elizaville, we were in Red Hook eating.
Man,
I know that place in Elizaville.
That's where the farm was. It was in Elizaville.
I knew it, Maineri. I knew it.
You gotta be kidding.
No, I mean, dude, I spent 2 years. I cannot even imagine what it was like in 1972.
Probably swam in the Rojan Kill stream.
Oh my God!
That ran right by it, was part of my property.
Dude, Elizaville, New York. I spent 2 years of my life there. Camp Scatico.
Oh my
Camp Scatico.
God.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I cannot believe it.
No, I can believe it. That's how tripped out my shows become, dude.
It's right on Pleasant Vale Road. You just go right off 9.
Dude, it was there.
Right.
Dude, I mean, it was there. Unbelievable.
Well, anyway, so we had the farm. I kept the farm. We lived there for about 4 or 5 years. Then it just got too rough on my kids. And I kept getting stopped by the Taconic State Police. They were hassling me all the time.
Leary's son,
hair.
yeah, Tim Leary's son. Yeah.
And then so we moved to Woodstock, which was right across the river.
Sure.
You know, where all the musicians I knew were living. You know, Hardin and Warren and you know, I can go on and on. DeJohnette was there at that time.
Dave Holland, John Simon, all these guys, yeah.
Yes, it was Sanborn. It's where I first heard Sanborn play with the Blues Butterfield.
Butterfield, Chris Parker was up there, yeah.
Yeah, so we moved there, and we were much happier there. So I kept the farm, then I sold it. Unfortunately, like for hardly any money in '80, I think it was in the 70s, right?
I really need to get this. No, I really no, because you said that White Elephant was originally called Red Eye, which means that you actually did grow grapes for wine. Is that right?
I didn't make wine. Yeah, I would get some wine. I would get some grapes that I would get from California, and I'd mix it with some of the white grapes that I had, you know, and some of the other grapes that were sort of more like a muscatel. And then I don't have any videos of the kids. I would put the galoshes on the kids and blow up a little rubber pool, like, you know.
Sure, this is so Elizaville, dude. Yeah, I can just see it. I can just see it.
Get in there and just like, yeah, and have some fun, and I'd crush all the grapes. Although I had a machine that did that, a hand machine, of course, that did that. And then you make about maybe 200 gallons of wine, and I'd bring it down to the gigs. I mean, down to the studios, you know, and it would go fast. It wouldn't last more than 3-4 months between. But I had a lot of help. You know, family and friends would come up and help me. You know, pick the grapes in the late September period, because you had to do it. And then on the weekends, there wasn't that much to really to do, because once you tie all the grapes, in other words. I'll tell you some other time. I'll be boring your audience.
No, let me.
Once you prune everything, right, and then you tie the grapes, because they're on. It's like a double wire, long wire.
No. One of my
banging the posts. It was hard work. Let me tell you, I was in amazing shape. It was like really hard.
Yeah, well, you were pushing yourself. I mean, listen, I was commissioned by one of my advertisers, who's like a very decorated cardiologist in Tucson, and he's also a wine fanatic, and he's obsessed with this correlation between heart health and moderate red wine consumption. And so he said, Jake, I'm going to commission you to go and interview the last family wine growers of Napa Valley. And so it was all Zin growers. I'm telling you, man, I have YouTube videos. These guys, exactly what you were talking about with this guy in New York, even though it wasn't alcoholic wine, but these guys, a lot of them came in total Renaissance men, like literally, like there was a fire that nobody talks about in the 60s that just blew up Napa Valley, the county, and the earth was scorched. And the guys I'm interviewing, like Jerry Seps comes to mind, Storybook Winery. He's in his 80s. He's out in the fields, pruning, clipping, coming in with bloody knuckles, and his wife is like making this delicious salmon, pairing it with a beautiful Zin wine. I mean, these guys, they've been doing this, and they're just avatars. It's the most, and there's not that many original growers left. But, you know, it just was like, it was wonderful to do that, because I'm not a connoisseur of wine. I'll drink it. I would have been drinking Red Eye by the bottle, but it was like, it was just amazing to see these guys who are very wealthy still with the flannel shirts on and the jeans at 80 years old, coming in with bloody hands from the fields. It's just
Yeah.
where they wanted to be.
Yeah.
And they were also...
That was fun for me. It was a challenge for me. You're standing on the top of a tractor, and of course they're big, these huge wooden posts, right? Every say 10 feet, you have two wires.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And you're standing on top of, you need to put a new post in. You're standing on top of a tractor, and you've got, an 18-pound sledgehammer over your head, and you're pounding the post in. You're really busting your butt. You're just, it's hard work, but it's really fulfilling. And your kids are watching. You're there helping. And
they're like, "Wow, Dad's
really
a hero,
great for
man."
them. My oldest son, biological son, has like a little farm up in Woodstock. He just keeps buying more and more property. I said, "Oh, you got the grapes going. Now he's got a beehive. He makes this amazing honey."
Oh,
and he's a hard worker. He's he's an amazing guy. So
that must have rubbed off on him. It must have had a huge impact on him.
Oh yeah, he loved the farm. So he wanted.
Oh, yeah.
When I sold the farm, the kids were heartbroken. It was 100 acres. I mean, you know what that's worth now? Millions of dollars.
I don't. You know what? If you had schemed, I'm telling you, the way the cat that sold it to you, if you had schemed and tried to sell that thing for profit, bad karma for you. You did the right thing. You're good. No,
I'm good. I have no regrets.
No regrets.
I understand they're wow, we could have had Dad, But hey, we needed the money to move, and move the whole thing along. So at that time, 7 children. So
well, let me just. We've just been cooking here we have to do another part because we never even got to the synthesizer stuff. But I want to ask you about. You're telling me that this WBAI, this cat Bob Fat, the entire Red Eye / White Elephant big band would be in the studio playing.
Yeah, there was one we did out in Long Island.
Exactly.
It was in Long Island. I forget where. I remember schlepping the guys out there. White Elephant actually played some gigs. We played at the Avery Fisher Hall at WNEW. Jonathan, I'm trying to think, is a real famous broadcaster in those days. One of the most famous guys. But I'll do the research.
Well, you're telling me that it was in front of an audience and being broadcast live on the radio.
And then we did one. I'll never forget. And this is kind of funny. Maybe we could end with this.
Yeah, please.
We did a gig. It was in either Connecticut or part of Massachusetts, and it started snowing really heavy. And just imagine these cats that cats like Ronnie Cuba forgetting his saxophone. Don't say this, but like guys just like loosey goosey. I never knew who was going to show up. So it's like 3 cars. So I show up with the rhythm section first, and we're waiting for the horns and the brass to show up. And it's like, and the singers, like, where the hell are they? So I think I had one singer. I think Nick was with me, Nick Holmes.
Oh my!
And
Nick
so
Holmes was in that group.
Nick was one of the singers. And so there's like Donald McDonald. I don't think it was Steve had joined the band yet. Gad. It was Donald and Tony Levin, Spinoza, McCracken, myself, and
Bob
Nick,
Mann.
We put up in the band. Yeah. So we show up, and there's all these kids at a university. I forget which university it was. And then we're waiting, and finally, they say, "Hey, you got to go on." So we start playing, just rhythm section, and then like 20 minutes, 25 minutes later, saxes show up, and they set up and they start playing, and the kids start going nuts, and then then it's Randy, Faddis, Lou Soloff, and I forget who else was playing trumpet, and then the trombones. It was
it's like Wayne Andre,
John Pearson, who was a saint. No, it was the guy who was in Dreams, who was the original trombone player in Dreams.
I should know this. Shame on me. I should know. Oh, Barry Rogers.
Barry Rogers.
Yeah, dude, Barry Rogers was, he
trombone
was
player.
the one Jewish cat that could
Right.
could fix cars. Yeah.
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 Well, I didn't know about that. So Barry and John show up. Barry's playing tenor. I had two trombones, and John played bass trombone and sang also. And when the horn section, when the brass showed up, they thought that was part of the act, like we were going to do in a little in stages. They went completely crazy,
Whoa. Whoa.
And then we're playing, funk and just like on a groove or something like
man.
that. And the singers would come in and sing, and it was like in a blizzard. And it was so much fun. I'll
that is
never
so beautiful.
forget that.
I mean, that's...
Of course, I was a nervous wreck, but I mean, it was like it turned out to be like a real gas,
Well, because the audience got off on it so much, and it was totally unscripted.
Yeah,
It
they
was-
were going like, "How cool!" It just kept getting bigger. They didn't know what to expect. White Elephant is like, so 6 guys are on stage. That's cool. Yeah, nice groove. Two guitars. A singer and vibraphone, and I was playing some keyboards. Oh man, it's like wild.
Oh, listen.
VAI. I think I have either Warren or I have a recording of that.
Warren
Bernhardt.
is he still with us?
Yeah, he's vacationing in Wisconsin.
Yo,
Warren,
Mike, can you
help?
hook me up with Warren, man? Can you please hook me up with Warren?
I will when he gets back. He has a memory that you would just. Like,
No, I can't. Mike, I
every-
thought he had left us already. I
he
can't
remembers
believe he's still around,
hotel
man.
room. Oh yeah.
Oh my God.
He turns. We know each other since one of his first professional gigs were with me up when we played up in Buffalo at a jazz club. It was a mob joint.
It's called the Pine Grill. The Pine Grill.
He roomed at Bill Evans for quite a few years.
I knew it. Sorry, Bernhardt.
And he used to play the last show. He used to play Bill's last show at the Vanguard. He and Jeremy.
You mean
They were
the
best friends.
last set of a Bill Evans show?
Last set. Yeah.
Dude, just in a duo?
With the rhythm section.
Oh my God. That dude,
Bill
Mike,
Split,
Mike, I love you, man. Mike, I gotta go pick up my kids. Dude, I cannot believe this just keeps unfolding. It's like an endless unfolding of insanity. Man, dude. Well, let's
good laugh.
Yeah, no, you know what? It's good. It's very therapeutic. Let's email and set up a time to do another part because we got more to do.
Yeah, we'll do. We'll talk some stuff.
Yeah.
But that other, I'll tell you off the record. I mean, please edit that.
I will take out the entire part about our friend Mark. You know what I appreciate. What I appreciate is you saying that in advance. And
What?
I appreciate you saying that in advance. It'll be gone.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, I'll talk to you
Because
soon.
it was like. It was. Yeah. All right. I'll
Whatever,
tell
dude.
you
It was
about
a
it when we're
shyster.
off.
It was shyster stuff. It's fine. No big deal.
You got it.
Yeah.
You got it.
Yeah. Be cool, man.
All right, my
yeah.
man.
Be cool.
Take care.
Later. Great hang on the Jake Feinberg Show, and we will see you later.